Welcome back, guys. We're going to be putting the Market Watch series on hold, and I haven't yet decided what to call this new series I'm going to do. As I'm recording, I still have not yet created the thumbnail for the video, so whatever I settle on, I hope you like it. So instead of looking at market gainers and market losers and why things are happening, like we know exactly why these are happening, no longer will I pretend it has anything to do with the metas changing and different sets being introduced. Because most of the time you look at these cards, it's just a night and day difference compared to yesterday. And just last week was probably the worst week that I've seen, and that's including the summer when it was at its worst. Dominaria United released, and we had a lot more to talk about. We had the Brothers War coming out, but unfortunately I don't think that's quite had an impact yet. We see some ridiculous gainers for cards that are just not worth that kind of market value. Blighted Gorge from Battle for Zendikar is not hard to find. It's not part of any strategy, so it's suddenly having a new market value of around 35. And this was last week's percentage gain. I think this week it's technically up to 70,000%, which is just unacceptable. And when trying to figure out why these things are happening, I need you guys to understand that this data, at least as far as the US totals, with mtgstocks.com, by the way, go check it out. It's a great resource if you just want to find out what's what. It's all coming from tcgplayer.com market sales. So the market value here is affected directly by sales, not listings. This is totally different than listings. Listings can be for anything. It doesn't always mean there is a sale. However, with the way that TCG Player is currently run, you could potentially sell cards to another account that you own in order to manipulate the market value that way so that the rest of your inventory that is priced lower but still at a reasonable premium moves a lot quicker. This is my theory personally. I think that's one half of what's going on here. A lot of big sellers just trying to get rid of their bulk inventory, and this is how they're doing that. And then you have the other half of the equation where you have sellers who are doing this specifically to trick people with the card optimizer. And we'll get to the best example of this later on. But looking at this week's change from the previous week, the biggest gainer here is Tori and Mahler, and we're not going to go over every single one of these. We're not going to go over Chaos Warp, the Borderless Double Masters 2022 extras, because I think those are just way too up and down and hard to really get a read on. But the first card is Tori and Mahler, and it's not just any Tori and Mahler. It's specifically the one from the Commander Precon Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, seeing a new market value of about 3.5. Since this data comes from TCG Player, it's important that we go over to TCG Player and get an idea of what's going on. And I'm just going to warn you, if you're expecting the typical Market Watch video where I'm more positive, I'm not going to be positive in these videos, guys. I've been honest up to this point that I think that TCG Player is no longer in the business of caring about any community. Just like with Wizards of the Coast answering directly to Hasbro for growth, TCG Player is answering to eBay now and eBay shareholders. And the stock market over the past year hasn't been that great, so they want growth, they want constant growth. TCG Player isn't going to tell these guys, hey, don't rip people off and make us more money. Look at all these different printings of Tori and Mahler, though. The listings are pretty much around $0.50. When you look under all of the listing prices, you get the market price average, and all of these except for a few are under $1. Only one is above 3, and that is our one from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. I don't so much have an issue with the original from Morningtide being a little bit more expensive on the market price, seeing as it is an original print, and sometimes that does have an effect on the desirability of the card. And I neglected to do this often in the Market Watch series, but it's so important whenever you look at individual cards, go to the sales history snapshot. It'll be a little window that pops up, it'll show you all of the recent sales. So as you can see, over the past week, we have one sale of $82. Another thing to clear up, and this is something that I think you guys need to stop doing. Not because you're incorrect, but because you could get yourself into some serious trouble if you accuse people of money laundering. There's a very good reason why I haven't accused any sellers of money laundering, because money laundering is a crime. And these are people who run businesses. All they have to do is say, hey, look at our sales from the previous year compared to this year, Judge. Ever since this YouTuber started accusing us of money laundering, we've lost a lot of money. Well, did you money launder? No. We were not money laundering, we were just taking advantage of the TCG Player website. And then everyone will say, okay, well, it's TCG Player allowing you to do this. You need to understand they're not doing this to hide money. That's the whole purpose of money laundering, is to hide the money. If it were money laundering, also think about it this way. Why would you take some 50-cent bulk rare when you actually have cards that are worth $80? And it would draw absolutely no attention to yourself. It's ridiculous. I get you guys watch Breaking Bad and The Sopranos and whatever. It is just a lot of sellers taking advantage of a marketplace in order to dump their bulk. which isn't really a crime. You have to separate and distinguish from what's criminal and what's just immoral. And I think manipulating a website and its features that were originally intended for convenience in order to rip people off, I think is pretty immoral. Not illegal, though. Next card we have is Psychosis Crawler. Again, it's a very specific one from Commander 2020. Any guesses as to whether or not this one's a legitimate interest or artificial interest? Well, let's look at how many we have to choose from on TCG Player. We have a ton. And what's funny is that we have the new retro frame ones, and they're not even having a market price this early that's anywhere near the market price of the Commander 2021. Again, we're going to look at the sales because the sales will tell us everything. Massive red flag over the summer was whenever you see the sales that are identical. So one quantity at a time, $4.97, $4.97, $4.97. Someone bought two at $4.97, someone bought one at $4.98, and then earlier on the 11th, you get more $4.97 sales. To me, this just screams manipulation. Combine that with the fact that the other printings of Psychosis Crawler are not doing anything. Scrap Trawler is the next card. I like it. Not exactly gonna blow anyone away though as far as the market value. It's never been a hard card to find. Shot up to around 2, this is a smaller scale example compared to last week, where we had cards going up by 1,000 percentage points. This week we're maybe looking at 100% gainers, but the manipulation is still there. Again, look at the sales. Anytime you see a repeat or really unusual sales, you know that there's some kind of manipulation going on here. We see several listings here around that $3.50 range and plenty of sales that are under $1. And it goes without saying I would stay away from most of these. If you're interested in investing in Magic the Gathering cards, or you're looking to ride the waves like the stock market, it also pays to understand like which cards are going up because of genuine interest. Mirrodin Besieged is a great card. Is it worth a market value of 5? Let's find out. Well, we can see by the recent sales, the same red flag. Several individual sales of $6.97. This is all probability, so you're either going to believe me or not when I say that this is highly unusual, that you're not going to have individual sales of the same card this often in the same day for the same exact price, and especially if that price is well above the average. Next up, we have a Johnny's Chosen. This isn't even that great a card anymore because we have that Pegasus that gets you better creature tokens. And there are other printings of a Johnny's Chosen, but I think the tactics are changing, and it might be because some sellers are watching my videos. They may have caught on to what I've pointed out, where a lot of these market manipulations are happening with bulk rares from pre-con decks, because a lot of sellers have massive inventories filled with pre-con cards. Not so many original prints. Well, a Johnny's Chosen here from M14 is an original print, but it's not a hard card to find at all. This would be a lot less suspicious to me, which is why I think they're starting to do this. As you can see, out of the 4 different Johnny's Chosens on TCG Player, this is the only one with a market price average of above $2. Looking at the recent sales, you get some suspicious activity here, couple $5.99s, and then you get a $20 sale on the 14th. Then Delina Wild Mage from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. More interesting, you get a lot of these cards from the Dungeons & Dragons crossovers, where there's a focus on rolling d20s. And we look at the recent sales, you get a lot of $7.90s, when the majority of these are going to be $1 or $2. So there's your red flag for that card. And going back to what I was saying earlier with this specific card, you'll have 2 different strategies where you'll have the sellers who were selling to another account they own. So they'll sell a card to themselves that's like 50 cents, but they'll sell one of them to themselves for $80, which will affect the market value. This is going to get more eyeballs on the card so that hopefully they get to sell off their bulk. That's one half of what's going on. The other half here is stuff like this. Now, I've talked about last safe point here again. I've never accused any individual seller of a crime. I've been criticizing the way that they're running their business, which is totally fair. This is just ridiculous. This would be ridiculous to anyone who hasn't believed anything else I've said so far. Which if you haven't, and you're still watching the video, thank you, but I don't know what else you need to hear. What this seller is doing is that they're listing the same card several times around the same price, because it increases the chance of the card optimizer choosing their listing. They're not going to bother going through the price difference. Well, lightly played is going to be about $1 cheaper than near mint. Moderately played, maybe another $1 cheaper. Heavily played, a few dollars cheaper than that. No, they're going to have different listings with different conditions, but they don't actually have this many moderately played or this many lightly played, that many near mint. They're probably all lightly played or all near mint. The reason why they're doing this is so that when you choose to optimize your cart, let's say you want more cards from the same seller, and you have other cards from last save point, the card optimizer lets you choose if you want to have all from the same seller or if you want to have all direct from TCG Player. There are different ways that you can choose to customize your order. Those are just a couple ways that a lot of people will choose. And you'll notice that last save point's not listing this card for $50. What they're doing is hoping that you won't notice when you check your cart that they've got a premium on a card that isn't worth that premium. Now, Chalice of the Void is the next one. This is pretty ridiculous too because a lot of people are going to pay attention to this change because it's pretty significant. You're going from around 60 and under 60 being the market average to suddenly closer to $100. Now, Chalice of the Void is no stranger to getting close to that amount. But when I show you the sales, when I show you the different listings here, and that no other, not even the original from Mirrodin is seeing this type of change, you'll agree with me that this is some significant market manipulation. And the sales will not hide their manipulation. That's the one thing I will congratulate TCG Player on. It's creating this option to view most recent sales. And this is the most ridiculous one I've seen so far in making videos about the market. Because look at every single one of these, they are exactly the same. 98.50. All on the same day. We've got a rookie, guys. We've got one who doesn't know how to hide their manipulation a little bit better. So this is a significant problem. Why I feel strongly about this and why I'm going to continue talking about the manipulation. We now have forces on both sides that are acting against the interests of this community. We have a Wizards of the Coast that wants to affect the secondary market. We have a TCG Player that doesn't care about the secondary market anymore because they allow this to happen on their website. If it were one or the other and not both, I wouldn't feel as angry about this. I'm not the type of person, you know me if you've been watching me for a long time, to make videos every week saying that the game's dying, guys. The game's dying. It's going to die any day now. But what I will point out is that terrible decisions are still terrible decisions, and they have consequences. The consequence for doing this repeatedly, getting away with it, is that more sellers are going to jump in and do the same exact thing. And over the summer, it was a couple sellers doing this. Now it's ballooned into just about any seller with a large enough inventory doing the same exact thing. It's like, remember going to school and the substitute teachers there? If one kid started acting up, they got away with it, the teacher didn't say anything. Other kids started doing the same exact thing because they knew they could get away with it. The same thing applies with market manipulation on a marketplace like TCG Player. It is their fault, by the way. I know some people are trying to excuse it, saying it's not their fault. This is their website. They have tools on their website that are being taken advantage of, and it's not creating a positive consumer experience. What really kills me about this is that I've seen comments say, well, at least they have better prices than Card Kingdom, which I'm like, really? Card Kingdom is a single seller in the Pacific Northwest, and people are going to hold them to the same standard as a marketplace. I mean, that goes to show you just how reliant people are on the most convenient options. Which now it would seem that TCG Player, for Magic the Gathering purposes, has a monopoly on the secondary market for online sales. I'm just going to keep talking about it until more people talk about it. I enjoy helping people, helping them to understand exactly what's going on and why it's happening. Again, be smart about it. Don't accuse individual sellers of a crime because you could get in serious trouble for that. After all, these are their businesses. Any amount of money they lose because of something you accuse them of is something that they could sue you for. That doesn't mean you ignore it. You continue to criticize them because what they're doing in my eyes is immoral. So that'll do it for the video. If this happens to this degree or even similar to how it was last week, I will continue to make a video on it. Commander Void here signing off. I will see you all next time.